Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and someone who shouldn't have disposable income. This is not a test. This is a random review.
So once again, I'm kind of in the mood to talk about some core class figures, and since I already talked about Sludge, I feel like it is my duty as a reviewer to actually do as many of the core class Dinobots as I can, because it'd be a shame to just do one and then leave you hanging on the other five. So let's talk about them as they come out, which also means we get to talk about Dinobot Slug now. Now, I already talked about Sludge in that it's kind of an unfortunate one for them to lead with because it's probably going to be the most disappointing out of all six. But they also led with Slug. For whatever reason, Amazon shipped me my Sludge before I got Slug. So I don't know. They're in the same wave. They're in the same case assortment. Don't know how they got that one mixed. For whatever reason. But now we can actually talk about the Wave Mate. We can actually see how it compares, and we can actually see if these Dinobots are going to be salvageable or not. So, taking a look at Slug, he is what you would expect. He is a silver Triceratops with some gold accents here and there. Very traditional Dinobot in appearance. And he is a quite small little guy. If I compare, if you want to see, Elita 1's legs from the Warrior class toy, so you can kind of get an idea. It's pretty standard core class here. So they didn't upscale the Dinobots because they're the Dinobots. It's the same universal scale all the way down the board. So let's bring him in close and get a better look at him. And you can already see there's a little bit of weirdness to this because of what it has to do. Namely, he's missing his belly. You never describe a Dinobot as gutless, but yeah, because this thing is going to have to combine, there are some gaps here and there. There's some weird things that it does, so we're just kind of going to roll with it a little bit. Now, the good news is I don't think any of the others are going to be compromised the way Sludge and Slug are, but for now, we're just going to have to kind of go with it. The same is true of the tail, which really doesn't fit him very well. It's weird that it sticks out straight like that. It really doesn't look like a tail, unless he suddenly has a two-pronged stinger. I'm pretty sure that's not accurate to a dinosaur. I've seen Jurassic Park. I know what accurate dinosaur is supposed to look like. Stupid feather velociraptor. Look. So let's focus on the other side. The other side looks fine. So the head, traditional, gold, everything looks nice. He's got those sharp blue eyes in there, Autobot symbol on the top. He's got his horns. Because of the transformation, he does get a mouth that opens up, so all that works pretty well. We go into the body itself, a little bit of gold on the top because that's the robot mode feet. Because of the way the arms transform, one side or the other has to be hollow. So do you let the hollow part be exposed on the robot mode or the beast mode? And they decided, well, the robot's probably more important. It's a Dinobot. I might argue that. But here we have to see hollow gaps in the arms. That's just the nature of the beast. And everyone get angry over gaps in plastic. Guess what? All the old toys had gaps in plastic too. They were just never designed like this, so you didn't see them. But for whatever reason, okay, fine. Whatever. If you want a little bit of motion, the legs do go back and forth on both sides, and these can, because of the transformation, splay out a little bit. So, hey, you remember the Beast Wars Neo toy that had a dead mode? Yeah, he can do that. Slug can play dead, if you really want that. I don't know why you would, but it's an option. All right, let me transform him. Let's get into some redeeming qualities here, because the beast mode is a little bit messy on him. So we got to remove the tail and set it aside. I know, part forming. We'll wait for it. We'll be okay. From there, standard Dinobot stuff, right? We'll flip the legs out and get those into the correct position for the robot mode. No real way to lock the beast legs in anywhere or tuck them away, so do with as you will. The arms themselves have to bend all the way back and then rotate out in order to become the arms. So that's pretty simple as it is. And then lower that jaw all the way down. And guess what? You're pretty much done. That's pretty much how you transform Slug into his robot mode. He's not a complicated boy. Now, that's now if you know Slug in the cartoons, that's actually entirely accurate. He is not what you would call complex in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I'm not really shocked that it's this simple. But really, for what it has to do, and because it's going to be technically a triple changer, I don't mind the simplicity of the transformation simply because it's keeping it from being overly complicated. I think I think when you're dealing with a combiner, especially a 6-piece combiner, you don't want to go overboard with anything like, transformation complexity, because that's going to cost you in structural stability later on. So he's dedicating a lot of his sturdiness to how the combination mode's going to work, and we're going to leave it at that, all right? So it's just weird. So let's take a close-up look, as we always do. It is a red-headed Slug, and yeah, the head does look quite tiny on him, I will admit that. I think part of it is just because of how big the beast mode head is. This gigantic plastic hood that is surrounding his head, definitely kind of adding to how small that head looks. It's not a badly sculpted head, though. He looks like Slug, or Slag, if you want to go with the original that we can't say in Europe anymore. But for what it is, yeah, he's okay. I am missing a little bit of detail in the chest. I feel like there's some gold missing, or a little bit of silver paint missing that might have helped. Unlike Slug has no silver paint accents anywhere on him, so he's just kind of working with what he's got. But they did completely paint the torso red, so he's got that going. Thighs, thighs stayed gray, so everything's pretty much the way you'd expect, and then a little bit of black to make the fists stand out, and pretty simple in the detailing. Aside from the fact that there's no big panel wings, it doesn't look too far off from how the original Slag transforms. So I'm not really fussed about it. It's functional. It works. So yeah, let me get into articulation, because there's really not a whole lot on this toy to talk about. So yeah, you saw the head does rotate. You can't do that in beast mode because of the jaw, but here you get a nice bit of rotation on the head. Universal shoulders, that work really, really well. Nothing at the elbow, unfortunately. There is a point where it looks like you can get articulation. You kind of have to break the back open a little bit to get it, but he does technically have a waist joint that you can use. Ball joints in the hips, so those work really well. Knees bend really, really nicely. So unlike Sludge, he actually does have actual opposability to him that could potentially be useful. It's a little bit awkward to get him to stand because he is kind of back heavy because of all the components that he's still carrying on his back. You can arm him up though with his tail, which forms a taser, the famous Dinobot weapon, the taser. Okay, look, I'm trying. Okay? I like to think my imagination has stayed pretty sharp over the years. I like to see things, I like to imagine how things are and see weird shapes like that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the weapon is. It looks like he's gonna plug in a lamp. I don't know. It's weird. It's you know what it is? It's a necessity of the beast, and by the beast I mean Volcanicus. So is what it is. All right. So what's the payoff here? What's the payoff? So okay, we gotta have some payoff for these Dinobots sacrificing. I think once the team is complete, it's just gonna look like a nice desktop size set of Dinobots all together. You're not gonna notice the little flaws or anything. You're just going to enjoy having a set of Dinobots that don't take up a massive amount of shelf space. But of course, there's a much bigger reason, I mean that literally, for why things are the way they are with this guy. So I'm going to open up the back now, and we're going to flip the feet back to where they were. I'm hoping I do this right, because I've only done this mode once. So I'm hoping I've got this right here, and I'm doing this in the right order. I got to rotate this back and then tab it into the side. That will peg the whole thing together. There we go. Pegged in. Flip that back in that position. Gonna go ahead and put the legs up like that, but that's probably not the best position for them. Now, we're gonna take Sludge here, and we're gonna take the tail piece. I'm gonna remove this suspicious black piece from the tail, and then I'm gonna use this 5mm port to plug that into here. And then I'm going to use that cavity to hide that head and plug this peg into that hole, these pegs into those holes, like so. Like so. Then, Sludge's arms are going to have a little bit of hole there. That goes into that peg right there. Do the same thing on the other side. And now you have this really, really solid, beefy looking torso. Oh, if all the pegs would go together so it actually looks nice on camera. There we go. And then we take the suspicious black piece, and oh my god, it was Volcanicus's head all along. Who could have foreseen this? And that is going to give us our current Volcanicus, which on mine, the right shoulder part will not stay pegged in for some stupid reason. Needed just a little bit to shore it up and make it look a little bit more, connected a little bit more firmly. Because that peg is not holding together. That peg just refuses to hold together on mine. But whatever. Whatever. For now, with the 2 release, we're getting an idea of where Volcanicus is going to go. We know it's going to be using the 5mm ports specifically, which means the next component is probably going to peg right into there in order to form arms for the total combiner. I really do hope there's a little bit better way of connecting. I hope it adds a little bit more to the connection point because, like, as I just showed, that little tab is not the best way of holding an entire arm up, even if it is something as light as a core class figure. And then ports down here at the bottom are going to provide the spots for the legs to go. So we get an idea of what Slug and Sludge have sacrificed for in order to give us what is going to be probably a much nicer and more solid looking combiner than they had the last time they made the Dinobots combine. I'm not a fan of the original Volcanicus, but if this one is worth it, if this one actually looks really good, it might actually be worth sacrificing a little bit of functionality on 2 of the 4 Dinobots. So now, I think we just sit back and wait to see how the rest of the traditional team goes, and to find out who number 6 is. We haven't seen any kind of leak for what the next set of Dinobots coming out is going to be, but fingers crossed that they keep this up, because I think the arms and legs aren't going to have to sacrifice nearly as much. And I'm really hopeful they come out really, really nice looking, because this could be a really fun little set if everything stays the way it is. As for Slug on his own, he's not bad. He's got his flaws, but he's not nearly as encumbered as Sludge was. So out of the 2 Dinobots, he's definitely the one to get right now. But for the most part, buy it for the whole team. On an individual basis, I get the feeling that none of them are going to be perfect. So just keep the team in mind, and just be glad this is going to be fairly inexpensive for a combiner thanks to its size class. So that's what I got. Slug is okay. Not as bad as Sludge, just okay. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.